There's a moment that happens in almost every home with a cat, and most people never really notice it. You walk into the room. Your cat is sitting on the windowsill, or curled on the arm of the couch, or half hidden under the dining table. You say their name. They hear you. Their ear twitches, and then, very deliberately, they look somewhere else. Not away in fear, not toward something more interesting. Just away. A soft, quiet refusal to meet your eyes. You brush it off. You've probably brushed it off 100 times. Somewhere in the back of your mind, though, a small question forms. Is my cat okay? Am I doing something wrong? Why won't they just look at me the way the dog next door looks at their owner? Sit with that question for a minute, because it isn't a small one. Your cat is telling you something in that quiet turn of the head, and it's almost never what the internet says it is. It isn't dominance. It isn't spite. It isn't your cat not loving you. It's something much older than that, wired into a nervous system shaped long before your cat ever set paw on a carpet. Hi, I'm Dr. Andrew Collins, and I've spent more than 20 years in feline practice. 20 years of watching cats move through exam rooms, living rooms, kitchens, and hallways, and 20 years of listening to owners describe behavior they can't quite explain. Avoiding a person's gaze is one of the most common concerns I hear about, and it's one of the most misread, because your cat isn't living in the home you think they're living in. They're living in a version of it. Their instincts translate for them, moment by moment. And a great deal of what looks like distance is actually a language you were never taught to read. What I want to do today is walk you through a room-by-room rescue mission. Not a lecture, not a checklist you'll forget by dinner. A real, practical tour of the invisible frictions in your home that are quietly shaping how safe, or unsafe, your cat feels in their own skin. By the end, I'll show you the single change that, in the clinic, transforms this behavior faster than anything else. One gentle note before we go further. Nothing I share today replaces your own veterinarian's eyes on your cat. If your little one has recently started looking away where they used to hold a steady glance, or if that shift comes bundled with hiding, appetite changes, or a break in litter habits, please book a visit. Behavior and health sit on the same shelf in a cat's body, and a good vet can tell them apart. Let me tell you what direct eye contact actually is to your cat, because this is where most of the confusion begins. In the wild ancestor of the house cat, and remember, your cat's DNA is barely a whisper away from the African wildcat that gave rise to them, a hard, sustained stare is not a greeting. It's a challenge. It's the signal a predator gives just before it commits to a chase, and it's the signal one cat gives another right before a fight breaks out on a fence line. Cats read eyes the way we read tone of voice, and a locked human gaze from a creature many times their size is loud, very loud. Researchers at the University of Sussex explored this a few years back with the now well-known slow blink study, where they demonstrated that cats respond positively and reliably to a soft, half-lidded blink from their humans, and often blink back. What that study really told us, underneath the headlines, is that cats have an entire visual vocabulary running in the background of every interaction, and staring sits on the wrong end of it. Your cat looking away isn't rejection. It's often the most polite thing they know how to do. Here's where the rescue mission begins. Polite avoidance is not the same as comfortable avoidance. There's a version of looking away that means, I trust you enough to relax my guard, and there's a version that means, this environment is asking too much of me, and I don't have anywhere to put it. Most owners can't tell the difference, because the difference doesn't live in the cat. It lives in the room around the cat. Walk your home the way your cat walks it. Their eyes sit only about 6 inches off the ground for most of the day. Their pupils are built for low light and quick motion. Their ears rotate almost 180 degrees and pick up frequencies you can't hear. Their nose is processing chemical information from every surface you've cleaned, every shoe you've kicked off, every guest who came by last Tuesday. That's the operating system running underneath the fur. Everything I'm about to walk you through is really about giving that operating system what it needs to power down its alert level, because a cat on high alert simply cannot make soft eye contact with anyone. Start with vertical territory. Stand in your living room right now in your mind and ask yourself, if my cat wanted to be 3 feet off the ground, could they get there without touching a single piece of furniture I'd rather they didn't touch? For most homes I visit, the honest answer is no. The cat has the couch, the bed, maybe a windowsill, and that's it. Everything else is a negotiation. Here's what's happening underneath. A cat in a purely horizontal world is a cat forced to meet every threat at eye level. Every visitor, every vacuum, every child, every dog, every unfamiliar noise arrives on the same plane as their body. When nowhere exists to climb, nowhere exists to observe from a position of safety. So they do the next best thing available to them. They stop meeting your eyes. They pull their attention inward and slightly to the side. because holding a gaze from ground level in a world they can't rise above would be committing to a confrontation they can't win. The silent symptom is the exact behavior that brought you here. The cat who won't meet your eyes, the cat who turns their head when you sit down next to them on the couch, the cat who chooses the far end of the room instead of your lap. Your home change is straightforward. One tall, stable perch, at least 4 feet off the ground, positioned so your cat can survey the main gathering area of the house without being cornered. A cat tree works. A cleared bookshelf works. A window hammock works. What matters is height and stability. Wobbling defeats the purpose. Give them the vantage point their instincts are begging for. And within roughly 2 to 3 weeks, in most cases, you'll notice something shift. They start looking at you again, from above, on their terms. That's exactly the beginning we want. Hold on to that phrase, on their terms, because it's the thread running through everything today. Escape routes come next, and this is where I see so many well-meaning homes accidentally close their cat into a corner. Think about the layout of your main rooms. When your cat is eating, sleeping, or using the litter box, can they see more than one exit? If a person walks in, or worse, if the front door opens and the delivery driver's voice fills the hallway, does your cat have 2 separate paths to safety, or does every path funnel past the same doorway? A cat with only one exit is a cat who has to keep their attention locked on that exit at all times. That's cognitive load. That's a nervous system spending calories on surveillance instead of connection. And a mind spending calories on surveillance cannot spare the bandwidth to soften its gaze at you when you walk by. The fix here isn't renovation, it's rearrangement. Pull the food bowl 6 inches away from the wall so your cat can eat facing outward, with space behind them, not trapped against a baseboard. Move the litter box out of the dead-end corner of the laundry room and into a spot with 2 lines of sight. If you have a hallway that ends in a single door, add a small piece of furniture, a low bench, a sturdy basket that your cat can slip behind. It doesn't need to be beautiful. It needs to be a second option. Cats who have options don't have to keep their eyes locked on the one door. And cats who don't have to keep their eyes locked on the one door can finally spare a soft glance for you. I remember a cat who came into my clinic last spring, a lovely orange tabby, about 6 years old, brought in by a couple who were convinced he'd started hating them. He wouldn't meet either of their eyes anymore, wouldn't sit in the same room. His blood work was fine. His teeth were fine. Everything on the medical side was, in the plainest terms, boring. So we talked about the house. It turned out they'd moved his food bowl 3 months earlier into a narrow galley kitchen with one way in and one way out, right beside the dishwasher. Every meal for 3 months he'd been eating with his back exposed and a machine roaring behind his shoulder blades. We moved the bowl, just moved the bowl 4 feet, into an open corner of the dining room with sight lines to 2 exits. 2 weeks later, they emailed me. He was sleeping on the arm of the sofa again, watching them, blinking at them. That's what the environment does. That's the whole game. Ambush density is the 3rd layer, and this one is subtler. Cats don't just want escape routes, they want the ability to interrupt sightlines. In the wild, an African wildcat spends much of its day using low cover to break up its silhouette. Tall grass, a tangle of roots, the shadow of a rock. In your home, that cover has to come from furniture. A sofa, a cat can duck behind. A chair leg they can peek around. A rug edge that gives them something to be beside instead of exposed in the middle of. Minimalism is often the hidden cost here, and I say this gently, because I love a clean living room too. A room that reads as elegant to human eyes often reads as a hunting plane to feline ones. Nothing to hide beside. Nothing to break up the space, nothing to be small in. The cat responds by either freezing in one corner all day or by ghosting through the room at high speed. And either way, no gaze meeting yours. There's no bandwidth for it. Every crossing is a commitment. Your fix is 1 or 2 low, unobtrusive pieces of what I call soft cover. A floor cushion tucked beside an armchair. A small ottoman set 6 inches from the wall so your cat can slip behind it. A tall potted plant, safely non-toxic. And please double check that list with your vet because it matters more than people realize. Placed near a walkway. You're not cluttering your home. You're returning something your cat lost when they moved indoors. Their world used to have texture. Give a little of it back. Pausing here because if you're still with me, this is the moment I'd love to hear from you. Down in the comments, tell me which room your cat spends the most time in. Living room, bedroom, kitchen, home office, laundry room, whichever one. I read these, and I can often tell you from that single answer what your cat is really seeking in your home. Drop it below when you have a moment. And if any of this is landing, like on the video, helps other cat owners find this rescue mission too. Keep going with me, because the next 3 layers are where the real transformation happens. Light and sound layering is the 4th thing I want you to look at. Your cat's eyes are extraordinary at handling dim environments, and their ears are extraordinary at handling silence. What they struggle with is inconsistency. The sudden bright overhead light flicking on after hours of soft lamp glow, the television jumping from a quiet dialogue scene to a car chase, the smart speaker chiming, the doorbell, the microwave, the dryer buzzer. Every one of those events is, to their nervous system, a small startle. Startles accumulate. A cat living in a home with high acoustic and visual volatility develops what I'd call a defensive baseline. They walk through the day slightly braced. A braced face cannot make eye contact the way a relaxed face can, because holding a soft gaze requires stillness of the muscles around the eyes, and a braced cat's face is doing 8 other things at once. The fix isn't turning your home into a monastery, it's building predictable transitions. Turn on lamps before the overhead lights. Give the smart speaker a lower default volume. If you use a television regularly, let the room breathe with softer background sound during the day. A low fan, gentle music at conversational volume, so that sudden noises don't punch a hole in complete silence. Cats read change against a baseline, and a slightly warmed baseline absorbs shocks that a silent one amplifies. Miss this one, and every other change we've discussed loses about 1/3 of its power. A cat startled 6 times an hour is a cat who never gets to soften. Feeding ritual is the 5th layer, and this may be the one that surprises you most. Free feeding, with the bowl always full and sitting in the same spot, refilled quietly by a human hand, is, from your cat's instinctual point of view, a strange thing. Their hunt-wired instincts are built for a rhythm. Hunt, catch, eat, groom, sleep, repeat. When food simply exists, permanently in a bowl, that entire loop is short-circuited. The cat's brain doesn't get the closure it was designed for. And a cat missing daily closure often turns into a cat who's mildly, chronically unsettled. The kind of cat whose eyes never quite settle on yours, because their internal rhythm is off. I'm not going to tell you to become a raw feeder or to hand hunt your cat's meals. That isn't practical for most people, and it isn't necessary. What I am going to suggest is small. Split your cat's daily food into 3 or 4 defined meals. Before each meal, spend 90 seconds, that's all, 90 seconds, engaging them with a wand toy, a paper ball, or a treat rolled across the floor. Let them chase. Let them pounce. Let them catch. Then serve the food. You've just given their body the loop it's been missing. Hunt, catch, eat. Within about 15 days, you'll see the difference in the way they carry themselves through the rest of the day. Softer eyes, slower blinks, a willingness to hold a look at you for a beat longer than they used to. Skip this one, and you'll spend months wondering why the perches and the escape routes didn't fully deliver. The environment sets the stage. Ritual gives your cat somewhere to put their instincts. Both matter. Scent territory is the 6th quiet friction point. Your cat lives in a world painted in smells, and every surface in your home carries a story their nose is reading in real time. The chemical composition of your cleaning products, the plug-in air freshener in the hallway, the scented candle you burn on Sunday evenings, the new laundry detergent, every one of those, to your cat, is a rewrite of the map they've been building. Cats who can't trust their map cannot relax their eyes. There's an interesting body of behavioral work, some of the clearest coming out of research groups in France, including work associated with Paris-Nanterre, on how scent stability affects feline stress markers. The short version is this: cats depend on scent continuity the way we depend on street signs. When we constantly repaint the signs, they slow down. They watch more. They engage less. Your change here is subtractive. You don't need to add anything to your home. You need to remove a little. Cut back on plug-in air fresheners in the rooms your cat uses most. Choose unscented or lightly scented cleaning products for the floors they walk on and the furniture they rub against. Resist the urge to wash their favorite blanket every week. This small thing surprises people. That blanket carries their scent, and their scent is the anchor that tells them this territory is theirs. Wash it once a month in unscented detergent, and rotate a second blanket in so there's always one carrying their signature. A cat surrounded by their own scent is a cat who doesn't have to keep verifying the room. A cat who isn't verifying the room can finally rest their gaze on you, which brings us, at last, to the change I've been building toward the whole way through. If you take away nothing else from today, let it be this one, because in the clinic, I've seen this move the needle faster than any single other thing. Give your cat a window that faces outward onto natural movement, and give them a comfortable, stable perch to sit on while they look through it. That's it. That's the transformation. I know how simple that sounds. Almost too simple. Here's what's actually happening inside your cat when you get this right. A window with real outdoor movement, birds, squirrels, leaves shifting in the wind, the slow drift of a neighborhood, engages your cat's predator software in exactly the way indoor life normally starves it of. Their eyes track, their pupils adjust, their whiskers shift forward. Their body settles into what behaviorists call quiet alert, that beautiful focused calm where the nervous system is engaged but not stressed. This is the closest thing to hunting a fully indoor cat can experience without leaving the house. And it drains, gently and steadily, the low-grade tension that's been sliding their gaze sideways every time you enter the room. Every day of this quiet watching lowers the baseline a little further. Set the perch high enough for them to feel elevated, 18 to 24 inches minimum, higher if your window allows, and stable enough that it doesn't shift when they jump onto it. Face it toward the most active outdoor view you have. If you have a bird feeder in the yard, position it 15 to 20 feet from the window so birds are visible but not startled off by every movement inside. Living in an apartment with a courtyard view works too. Cats will happily watch pigeons, laundry lines, or the neighbor's cat across the way. What matters is that the world outside is doing something, and your cat gets to be the silent witness of it. Cornell's Feline Health Center has written for years about the importance of environmental enrichment for indoor cats. And the through line of all that work is the same. Cats need something to watch, something to work for, and something to be above. A well-placed window perch delivers all three at once. Here's what happens next, and this is the part I love. Within 2 to 4 weeks of getting this one thing right, most of the owners I've worked with tell me the same story. Their cat starts holding a look again. Not the sharp, startled glances of an anxious animal, and not the polite lookaways of a cat trying to keep the peace. Real, meeting eyes, soft, slow, sometimes accompanied by a blink. The kind of look that says, I see you, and this is safe, and I'm choosing to be here with you. It's what you wanted from the very beginning. It was never withheld out of unkindness. It was withheld because your cat didn't yet have the internal room to give it. Here's what I'd love you to do this week. Pick one of the 6 layers we walked through. Vertical territory, escape routes, ambush density, light and sound layering, the feeding ritual, or scent stability, plus the window perch. Just one, plus the window. Make the change, give it 2 weeks. Notice what shifts. And if you can, come back to the comments and tell me what happened, because those stories help me shape what I make next, and they help other cat owners reading through see that this actually works. If any of this helped you see your home through your cat's eyes for the first time, do one thing for me if you can. Subscribe, so we can keep fixing indoor life for cats everywhere, one quiet room at a time. And if you know someone whose cat has been drifting a little further away this year, share this with them. There's a good chance the answer for their little one is sitting right there in the layout of their living room, waiting for someone to notice it. Another rescue mission is coming, one about a very specific corner of the home that almost every owner sets up wrong without knowing it, and the fix takes about 10 minutes. I won't spoil which corner. But if you've ever wondered why your cat suddenly stops using something they used to love, you'll want to be here for it. Until then, be gentle with yourself. The fact that you made it to the end of a long, careful video about your cat's gaze tells me everything I need to know about the kind of owner you are. Your cat is lucky, and with a few small changes, they're about to feel it